Power creep, power creep, power creep. This has been a major topic in the Zenless community since miHoYo was released in 1.4, but it all truly started because of the massive issue currently going on in Honkai Star Rail. This has been such a big issue that even the HSR dev team has acknowledged it, and they are now working on ways to strengthen older units in the game. This has now caused a bleeding effect within the gacha space, and now everyone is worried about power creep in their favorite games, but more specifically HoYo games. So I want to talk about it. I want to talk about what exactly is power creep, why power creep isn't such a big issue in Zenless, but how it could become one in the future. Now I just need to let this be known that I'm not saying that power creep does not exist at all in the game, because it does, but it's not as big of an issue as everybody is making it, and I want to bring us back down to reality so that we can properly assess the current situation that Zenless is in. And the best way to start this off is to answer the question, what exactly is power creep? Power creep in the context of this video is when new characters are significantly more powerful than older units, rendering them obsolete or significantly less effective. This is where you don't want your game state to be in, because this makes playing your game a lot less fun. Players tend to play gacha games to play their favorite characters no matter how old they get. So if we get to a point where the only way to progressively complete content within the game is to pull for new characters, that's when these games become unfun and even more predatory than they already are. But the thing is, with Zenless, we are nowhere near that point right now. The only characters that people can somewhat say that have been power crept within Zenless are Evelyn and Soldier 11, and this is because these characters are quote-unquote power crept by miHoYo and Evelyn, two other DPS units that matches their element. But the truth about this whole situation is that when it comes to the definition of power creep that we are using, Evelyn and Soldier 11 are only being power crept by the first half of that definition. Both miHoYo and Evelyn are significantly more powerful than Evelyn and Soldier 11, but they do not render them obsolete or significantly less effective. I say this because both of these units can still easily clear in-game without even needing a full limited team for them to do so. You can still use Ellen, Lycan, and Sukaku to clear Ice Week content. Same thing with Soldier 11. You can use Soldier 11, Piper, and Lucy to currently clear, or Soldier 11, Coletta, Lucy. This is still an option for you to do, and if you don't believe me, you can look up these characters and their clears with these different units on YouTube right now. This is something that people post all the time and currently do. It's just you guys are more than likely seeing a lot of these newer limited units on your screen and in videos because they're the newer shiny toys within the game, but it doesn't make these old units worthless and not playable. Even if you go from like a tier list perspective and look at these characters, a lot of these standard banner characters that I named and even some of these 4 stars are still rated pretty high within the state of the game for Zenless, meaning so that there should be no issue with you trying to clear content with them in the game. If you're currently facing issues with clearing content with them, then more than likely you're currently either facing an issue with your account and how your characters are built, in which we can always assess and improve that, as well as running into a skill issue, which I'm not here to label skill issue as like a form of negativity onto anybody or to make it seem like that you're inferior to anyone. I'm just saying that if you're running into issues and you feel like it's power creep, more than likely it's something that you can improve and overcome, because currently it's not as big of an issue as you're probably thinking. And honestly, from what I've been seeing from a lot of comments around these discussions, I think it more so is an overall skill issue or players not wanting to do certain things or to invest into the optimal play when trying to improve and learning their character. Which, if that's someone like you, if you don't want to invest in the time to improve your units to make them stronger, then honestly I don't see how you can complain about you needing to spend money when there's alternative. There are free ways for you to improve your clears and improve at the game without the need to spend any money. Now let's actually switch gears and talk about what could cause Zenless to be placed into a power creep issue. The primary thing that could cause power creep to become a big issue is Zenless is when content becomes unclearable due to it being inflated with newer units releasing. What I mean by this is that powerful units themselves do not cause power creep to feel like an issue for players, but is when the content is increased to complement the increase in strength of these newer characters. A lot of times with HoYo games, this results into HP inflation. So when you're trying to clear in-game content, most of the time you don't end up losing because you're losing to the actual mechanics of the bosses and stuff within the game, but because you're being DPS checked due to HP of current content that's in the game right now being increased. So right now, let's say that you're able to clear with your free-to-play teams within Deadly Assault with pretty much ease. Now, regardless of skill of the player, At some point, the damage multipliers of those characters not being updated will result into you just won't be able to do so without investing into new units. And that's when we need to really start worrying about power creep being a major issue within Zenless. Now, HP inflation does currently exist within the game, and it is something that we should be monitoring and paying attention with how fast they update it and increase it per patch, because the more often they do it, the much closer we will get to Zenless being pretty much an unplayable state for our older characters, and we don't want that to happen. Honestly, my hope is that with the current thing going on with HSR is that the Zenless team will acknowledge that that is the current issue within the game, and is also causing that player base to be very unsettled and upset, that they will go ahead and plan ahead to not only make sure HP inflation isn't directly infiltrated within the game to that degree as HSR did, but they will also make sure that buffs and stuff will come to the future for our older units in order to keep up with the current content of the game. It's not like we are asking for our older units to clear just as good as the best characters in the game. No, because currently, for instance, with Shield Defense, some of the best characters in the game can clear within 30 to 40 seconds. And at bare minimum, I hope that my Soldier 11 will at least be able to clear within a decent amount of time to receive all in-game rewards, which is all that most people care about. They just want to be able to still get the rewards that they are grinding for in order to invest and pull newer units in the future. But just because they're aiming to pull for those new units doesn't mean that they outright want to get rid of the ones that they're currently focusing on. I'd rather a game like Zenless feel unclearable to players due to the difficulty of new boss mechanics and stuff being introduced to the game, because you can always learn and improve and defeat in-game content with skill once you understand those mechanics. But you can't overcome stats and numbers, because that's the game artificially pushing back against you due to you just not having the strong enough tools within your kit. But not only would that cause power creep to become a big issue in Zenless, that's also another big thing is what a lot of players don't end up mentioning, and that's the rate that we receive new agents within these games. Currently, at the pace of where we're going, we're following the trend of HSR where we are getting 2 brand new agents every patch, which means that we're getting a lot of new agents introducing brand new mechanics and new damage multipliers and increases within the game at a very fast rate. This also means that the increase in this HP inflation issue is coming at a faster rate due to how many characters they're being introduced into the game. So I believe that the rate that characters are being released within Zenless needs to be adjusted so that we don't feel this issue of power creep coming so fast. Again, it's currently not an issue in Zenless right now, but at the rate that this game is going, it will be an issue soon enough. And while Zenless hasn't really got to that point yet, this is a great opportunity for the dev team to analyze this issue and get ahead of it before it becomes a massive issue and an upset for the community like the current state of HSR right now. Now, when hearing that some of you probably don't want less S-ranks to be introduced into the game, because a lot of us love these characters. Well, if they aren't willing to slow down the number of S-ranks being introduced, then I think another way to counterbalance this to allow players to still compete with this increase in inflation is by providing us more 4-star alternatives. 4-star releases are becoming really rare within HoYo games to the point that it feels like we have to create some form of uproar to let them know that we want new 4-stars coming into the game. Like, we're just about to get Procure to release within 1.6, and when you think about that, we're approaching almost a year with Zenless being out, and we've only gotten 2 new A ranks since this game has released. And within that same breath, we've gotten 14 S ranks that's being released within that same amount of time. That's a very big imbalance in my opinion, and it should be drastically adjusted to some degree. Now, I'm not saying that we should be getting 14 A ranks with 14 S ranks, but we can slightly adjust that to maybe getting 5 A ranks or 6 A ranks within a span of a year. I think that's a fair request to ask for a lot of these players that's enjoying this game, because the main people who make up the bulk of the number of the player base are free-to-play players. These are people that continuously enjoy your game and support you, maybe not financially, but in ways that still makes these games profitable. And I think us asking for more A ranks is more suitable than probably decreasing the amount of S ranks that we get, because indirectly that would mean potentially less content for these games, since a lot of the story features and new distance and stuff revolve around these new characters being implemented. But that's really the thing with power creep within Zenless Zone Zero. It's here, but it's not as big of an issue as people think, but it could become one if the game isn't maintained properly. And at this very moment, I have faith that the game will be, but I won't have a blind eye if we do get to a point where it's looking really rough. But that's everything. If you guys did enjoy this conversation, let me know in the comments down below, and be respectful to one another. If you guys did though, I do have a follow-up video that I'm working on how that they could come up with ways to prevent power creep from happening with current systems that are already introduced within Zenless. If you guys are interested in that, please let me know. But I appreciate y'all and all your love and support. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new, And always remember to believe in you that believes in yourself. I'll see you guys in the next one.